We're all in the gutter, but some of us are looking at the stars. This is the Boomer Island Podcast. Welcome ashore. Well, all right, everybody. Thank you for joining me again today on the Boomer Island Podcast. I do appreciate you, and I really hope you're feeling healthy and feeling happy. Now, that opening quote by Oscar Wilde, I think, is a profound observation of our human condition. And I believe one of the best ways to look to the stars, or in other words, find the beauty in the world, is through the great vibrations of music. Now, with that in mind, I want to go over this week in Boomer history. I want to go over day by day. And in case you didn't know, us boomers, our generation, has made a vast contribution to the music world. And here's some history that happened this week in September throughout the years. All right, starting on September 16th, the year was 1953. Any of you boomers alive? Anybody out there alive in 1953? I wasn't. I don't know what I was doing, but I was not here on planet Earth. Anyway, a young baby, actually a newborn baby, came into the world and they named him Earl. Last name Klugh, spelled K-L-U-G-H. Earl Klugh. He was born on September 16th, 1953. And in case you haven't heard of him, he's a Grammy-winning jazz guitarist, and he has collaborated throughout his career with many greats, including Bob James, Vince Gill, Chet Atkins, and George Benson, just to name a few. Now, this guy, man, he's got the sweetest sound. He blends jazz, pop, rhythm and blues, and he creates this just soothing vibration that's original only to him. Now, he has recorded over 30 albums, including 23 top 10 charting records, 5 of them number 1 on Billboard's Jazz Album Chart. So give this fine gentleman, Earl Klugh, a listen, and it's sure to just inspire and relax and soothe your soul. Next day is September 17th, and the year 1978. 46 years ago, boomers. 46 years ago. What were you doing in 1978? Man, it doesn't seem like 46 years ago, does it? But that was the day when the video for Queen's single, you know the band Queen, right? The single Bicycle Race. It was filmed at Wimbledon Stadium, you know, where they play that tennis tournament in South London. Here's the cool part. It featured 65 naked female models. They were riding around the stadium's track on bicycles. And the bicycles were rented. And then the rental company, they found out that the bikes had been used by naked models. They weren't happy about that. No. So they wanted money to replace the seats. Can you imagine if anybody would have hung onto those seats, what they'd be worth on eBay nowadays? Whoa. Anyway, yeah, Queen, the band consists of boomers, of course. You got Freddie Mercury, Brian May, John Deacon, and Roger Taylor. They are the Rhapsody of the Bohemians. The next day, we got September 18th, and this was 1983. 41 years ago. The decades are sliding, ladies and gentlemen. The band Kiss, you know those makeup dudes, right? The rock and rollers with makeup. They appeared for the first time with no makeup for an interview on MTV to promote their new album, Lick It Up. And I don't know how long they did that. I think it was one album only, but put that makeup back on, Kiss. Next day, September 19th. Now we're going to 1981, 43 years ago. Simon and Garfunkel, they reunited for a free concert in Central Park. You might remember that. I remember it, but I don't remember it was to help raise donations to restore the park. And 500,000 people attended. 500,000 people, and it wound up being a best-selling album and an HBO special. Now, I didn't know back like in the 70s that Central Park was in such disarray, but I have a son that lives there now, and when I visit him in New York, Central Park, man, it's my favorite place to go, even over the beautiful museums and all the glorious skyscrapers, Broadway, and all that New York stuff, man. I just love Central Park. So, hey, everybody, it shows we're capable of fixing things, if we put our minds to it. All right, next day, September 20th, and this was 1976, 48 years ago. All right, I was in high school 48 years ago. Good Lord. All right. Oh, God. AC/DC, they released their third studio album, Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap. But it was just released internationally, not in the U.S. And it wasn't released in the U.S. because Atlantic Records didn't believe the album would do well in the U.S. But following huge successes of Highway to Hell and Back in Black, Atlantic Records said, hey, these guys are money makers. So they capitalized on their success and they released Dirty Deeds in the U.S. in 1981, almost 5 years after its international release. I think I liked AC/DC like the first time I ever heard them. But really, all my favorite AC/DC albums are just their early ones. I think they did 5 with the raunchy, growling lead singer Bon Scott, who tragically died at age 33, and rest in peace, Bon. Your music lives on. All right, next day, September 20th, the year 2004. 20 years ago, boomers. The great Billy Joel gets a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. I'm not sure how those stars in the sidewalk happens, but Billy is definitely a great musician and deserves one of them their stars. All right, next day, September 21st, this goes back to 1947 when the great guitarist and musician Don Felder was born. You know Don Felder, right, of the Eagles? So he's 77. He was a major contributor to their sound. And you know what? If you look into their history, it's really interesting, but I think he was really treated badly by Glenn Frey and Don Henley. Those Eagles, they were often very angry birds. All right, next day, September 22nd, and that was a busy day. 1958 saw the birth of 2 biggies. You have Andrea Bocelli and Joan Jett. They were both born. They're both 66 now. Now, Andrea Bocelli, he's a great opera singer that sang from the balcony during COVID, if you remember those times. They were filming him, and it was very inspirational, really moving for the world. And if you're ignorant to the opera world like me, just know that Bocelli, he's crossed over to be a success in pop, classical, and opera music. This dude sold 80 million records worldwide. And Celine Dion, y'all heard of her, right? She said that if God has a singing voice, he must sound a lot like Andrea Bocelli. Well, there you have it. And Joan Jett, she started performing at age 16, and she's still going strong. Just wrapped up a tour with Alanis Morissette. Hey, Joan, I too love rock and roll. All right, boomers, I want to go back in time, tell you about an adventure that I had in high school. It was February of 1976, and 3 of my high school buddies and I got tickets to a Kiss concert in St. Paul, Minnesota. Yeah, we were Kiss fans. Guilty pleasure, man. We lived in a place called Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and St. Paul is about 250 miles away. So we loaded our things in my friend Kevin's car. I think he had a 1964 Bonneville or something like that, some big old boat, and we headed to the Twin Cities. Now, this is February, and there was a cold snap. Winter wasn't over yet, and the high for the day was around 10 degrees. So it was frigid. I mean, we lived in that, so we knew, what to expect. But you think about it, that is cold. And looking back, we made bad decisions. I mean, like on the way there, we drank beer, we smoked pot. But that was how we rolled. And as we primed for the concert, we all took a tab of lysergic acid diethylamide. And then we proceeded into the venue. Once we got in there, man, it was like Halloween on steroids. I mean, we were 17, at least I remember I was 17, and I felt old. I mean, the place seemed to be packed with like 13 and 14-year-olds. And on top of that, almost everyone was wearing Kiss makeup. I mean, it was crazy. So we found our way to our seats, and once the show started, man, it was truly the most amazing live spectacle I had ever seen. There was so much going on. I mean, my senses were overloaded. And besides all the fireworks from Kiss's pyrotechnics, the crowd, they had come prepared with all sorts of fireworks. We weren't expecting this, man. From firecrackers, I mean packs, like the 500 packs going off at a time. I had an aisle seat, and we were upper right stage, about middle of the way up. This was a big arena. And all of a sudden, this giant pack of firecrackers just lands right next to me. I don't even know, halfway through the show or whenever, and just started going off. Ducked our heads, said, "Duck, man, incoming." But there was firecrackers like that. There was bottle rockets. I mean, I even saw a few blow torches throughout the arena. I mean, this was the 70s, ladies and gentlemen. We were out of control. Now, and remember, if you were a concert goer back then in the 70s, you probably remember, the concert's over, they turn up the house lights, and the arenas were just filled with smoke. And you know what? It smelled like strong dirt weed, just full of weed, right? However, after this Kiss concert, the arena was filled with smoke when the house lights went up. But I swear, man, the smell wasn't weed. It was gunpowder, freaking gunpowder. So now the show's over, and we are all so amped up. We are ready to go out and hit the town, baby. And for those of you who say, but hey, you were only 17. Remember, this was the 70s. Minnesota's drinking age was 19, and we all had fake IDs. I already told you, we were full of bad decisions. So we found our way in the parking lot back to the old Bonneville, hopped in the freezing car, and Kevin put the keys in the ignition, and nothing. Try again, Kev. Nothing. So we hop out and open the hood. Hey, man, our battery had been stolen. Now what? Our night was destroyed. I mean, we were just dumbfounded. But we got a cab back to our hotel, but the hotel wasn't near anything, so we were just basically trapped and spent the night like caged animals in our room. I don't remember how far we had to go to the payphone to call for the cab, or how the next day we got another battery. We just did it. So that leads me to a couple of questions, boomers. Comparing the way we solved our dilemmas at that time and how the problem would be solved today using a smartphone. Do you think the old ways builds more character, or does it just sound dangerous? Another question. How many parents would let their teenagers drive 250 miles in the dead of winter to see a concert and spend the night in a hotel? My, oh my, have times changed. All right, that does it for me today, boomers. I hope you enjoyed This Week in Boomer History. And I could talk a lot about Billy Joel. He's one of my favorites, but I want to make a couple of songs of his, the songs of the day. A couple of deep cuts. You won't hear this on the radio. You're going to have, you might even not hear them on your rotation on Spotify or whatever, but go to 52nd Street album and listen to Zanzibar. And then on his River of Dreams album, check out It's All About Soul. See what you think. Until next time, everybody.